Hey, what's up, guys? It's Renaldo here. So I've got some brilliant news. It seems that AGOA, which is the African Growth and Opportunities Act from the United States, might be revived. In September this year, it lapsed for the first time in 25 years, kind of indicating that it might have been the end of this agreement between Africa and the United States. And in a nutshell, this agreement allows for African countries to export some of their goods to the United States with no fees, no extra charges, no tariffs. And then that leads them to be competitive and more people buy the goods in the United States to sell. So this has been going for 25 years. And as I stated, in September, it lapsed. And not a lot of people believed that under Trump, this would come back. However, it seems that this bill might now be revived because Senator Kennedy has presented it to the Senate. And of course, the United States government shut down for an extended period of time. But now that it's open again, this bill will be discussed. And it's only at the first stage, but eventually there's a possibility that this bill will be extended for another 2 years from when it is approved in Senate or in the United States at least. So, but there's one issue. South Africa is excluded from AGOA. Yeah. We'll get into that now, but let's read the article first. This article is by Business Tech. I would highly recommend that you bookmark Business Tech. They provide really good articles. And as you can see here, it says United States tables new bill to punish South Africa. I don't really know if I agree with that, but let's get into it. United States Senator John Kennedy has introduced a new bill to extend the African Growth and Opportunity Act for 2 years that would explicitly exclude South Africa. The bill was introduced to the US Senate at the end of September when AGOA officially lapsed, bringing an end to the 25-year-old program. The bill was tabled and sent to the Committee on Finance with no further action yet taken, and that's because the government has been shut down for 43 days. The existence of the bill was revealed by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition during a presentation to the Portfolio Committee on Tuesday, the 25th of November. The department noted that trade negotiations with the US were ongoing and there was hope that AGOA would be revived. It said that there is bipartisan support for renewal of AGOA among both Republicans and Democrats, and the White House itself has expressed support for a one-year renewal. It is expected that AGOA renewal will be a rollover of current AGOA benefits with existing members, meaning that South Africa may be retained in the program, it said. The DTIC mentioned that Kennedy had introduced a bill to renew AGOA for 2 years, which signals interest to renew the program. However, the department neglected to mention that this bill explicitly excludes South Africa. Of course, they would have excluded that because that's not positive news, is it? According to Kennedy, the bill called AGOA Extension and Bilateral Engagement Act, or AGOA 2.0, would extend the program for 2 years, but only for countries that support U.S. interests. The senator said that the program is necessary to counter China's growing influence in Africa, but said that South Africa's participation in the act would be under review. China is using Africa to expand its influence at America's expense. We need to rethink our relationship in the region while strengthening trade with African countries that share our values, he said. This bill makes sure AGOA works for America's interests, not against them. So it goes on to say South Africa is not involved. The Kennedy bill would renew AGOA for 2 years and ensure participating countries support U.S. interests rather than adversaries like Beijing and Moscow. However, he said that South Africa needs to be held accountable for aligning with Beijing, Moscow, and other U.S. adversaries. The AGOA 2.0 Act would extend AGOA for 2 years, require a U.S. strategy to negotiate bilateral trade agreements with select AGOA countries, emphasize clear eligibility criteria for participating nations, including democratic governance, rule of law, human rights, combating corruption, and open markets. Oh, that's going to be a problem right there. Incorporate Kennedy's U.S.-South Africa Bilateral Relations Review Act to hold South Africa accountable for aligning with Beijing, Moscow, and other adversaries. Ensure AGOA is used to strengthen U.S. partnerships in Africa while combating Chinese influence in the region. I'm not going to go on. All right, so I think you get the picture. Ultimately, what the United States is saying here makes 100% sense. It might not to mainstream media in South Africa, it might not to the government, it might not to the blind loyalists that hate the United States and hate Donald Trump. But ultimately, tell me what is not true in that statement. I mean, I'm sure all of you have seen the massive rise in Chinese cars in South Africa, how this market has been flooded with Chinese products, with Chinese cars. And ultimately, that is exactly what the United States is talking about. What is the point of us giving you great rates or no fees to send stuff to the United States, but you buy nothing back from us and you rather buy from China? It makes 100% sense. And then, of course, the political aspect of it, where South Africa has shown their alignment with Iran, with Hezbollah, with Hamas, with Palestine, with Russia, with China. It's quite clear that South Africa's government at the moment is not really friendly to the United States. So the United States is just retaliating by saying, if you don't actually believe in what we believe, you don't share our values, and you clearly work with people that are working against us, China, Russia, Iran, Palestine, etc., then what is the point of giving you these preferential rates? What is the point of including you in AGOA? But yet, you're going to see what mainstream media is going to do now. Mainstream media, once this eventually becomes law and South Africa is excluded, mainstream media and the government will blame these people that spread false narratives about South Africa to the United States, which they've done consistently. And we can all see after the successful G20 that they are now claiming that, the reason the United States didn't attend was because of this misinformation campaigns that were lodged by AfriForum Solidariteit Alternative Media, which is a bunch of hogwash. Everybody knows that it is the race-based laws in this country, the 145 of them, broad-based black economic empowerment. It is the fact that farm murders isn't seen as a priority crime, that private property isn't protected in this country due to the Expropriation Act. It's various things that has been implemented over the last 2 years that have caused concern for the United States and specifically for the President Donald Trump to say, why do we need to have these relationships and give preferential treatment and preferential rates to a country that is working against everything that we stand for? Because remember, we met with Hezbollah. And when I say we, I mean our government met with Hezbollah, met with Hamas, consistently meets with China and with Russia on trade deals that goes against what our second biggest trading partner is asking us to do. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, we don't need the United States. We can just rely on BRICS nations. Most of the BRICS nations export. They're not big importers. They want the world to buy their stuff and they make their own goods internally. So we are going to side with nations that don't import, which means our exports will be lowered automatically. And it's absurd that people think that Russia and China, who is sending all of their stuff to flood our markets, that they will suddenly buy stuff from us. The United States is the second biggest trading partner in South Africa. That is worth billions of rands. And our government is willing to give that up just because the United States are asking us to be loyal to the United States. Because AGOA has been running for 25 years, and during those years, we didn't hear any complaints from the ANC or the government or the woke leftists, because South Africa benefited, actually to the point where it was absurd. South Africa and other African countries benefited fantastically, whilst the United States didn't really, because our tariffs that we charged the United States on exporting their things to South Africa was quite substantial. That is why we have seen the tariff rates in this country, because most of that is what we charge the United States to export their goods to South Africa or to import it to South Africa. So I'm eager to hear what mainstream media is going to say about this. But do yourself a favor and go and read this document and go and read the documents that have been submitted asking for the United States to relook at their relationship with South Africa. In those documents, you will find the important reasons as to why the United States think that South Africa either needs to realign themselves with the United States, or then just not trade with the United States, or accept the tariff charges that they have been given by the United States. And once you go through those documents, you will see that it's not AfriForum, it's not Solidariteit, it's not Adams Roots, it's not Adams Pansel, it's not Renaldo, it's not Rob, it's not alternative media. It is things that the government has done and the government has failed on. Many mentions of corruption, of the Kill the Boer song, of various things, meetings with Iran, allowing Iran flights to come to South Africa, Russian flights to come to South Africa. There's so many things that are mentioned in those documents that mainstream media doesn't want to tell you about. So I will link both of those documents below so that you can have a look and make your own mind up. Don't be fed a narrative by mainstream media. Let them provide you with the facts. But wait, they won't do that, but I will. So check the links in the description below and you'll find all the answers to why specifically the United States do not want to continue this current relationship that they have with us, because of what the South African government is doing. But you won't get that information from mainstream media. So, to conclude this video, I really do hope that South Africa reconsiders the way that it's approaching its way of interacting with the United States. Because the United States is our second biggest trading partner, and the tariffs alone has cost this country 100,000 jobs. And if AGOA goes out the window permanently, then we can expect more jobs being lost in the hundreds of thousands, if not more. And if the government wants to play hardball with the United States, then we're going to learn the hard way. Unfortunately, when it comes to the world superpower, you have to give up a couple of things if you want to benefit from them being the economic superpower, the military superpower of the world. South Africa is not on equal footing with the United States. Let's not act like it is. I love this country. I think South Africa is one of the most beautiful countries in the world, with the most beautiful people internally and externally in the world. But I'm not going to lie and say, oh, South Africa, does not need other nations. If it weren't for other nations, South Africa would be worse than what Zimbabwe was at the peak of when shit went south in Zimbabwe. So we need to understand who our friends are, who our enemies are, and acknowledge that to the rest of the world. We cannot have great relationships with Iran, specifically with Hezbollah and with Hamas. Those are terrorist organizations. I'm not asking people to change fundamentally who and what we are as a nation. I'm just asking that we condemn these terrorist organizations just like many other countries around the world has done. But let's see what happens. Let's see if South Africa is willing to acknowledge that we need AGOA, because it creates jobs and it allows businesses to thrive in this country. Because if they don't, well, then the government's going to learn the hard way, and unfortunately, the citizens of this country is going to learn the hard way. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to smash that like button, share this video far and wide, and subscribe to this channel. And lastly, if you enjoy the content and you'd like to support my channel, you can do so by becoming a member. You can do so by clicking the join button below. And that's all I got to say. Till later, cheers, and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre.